Good morning, everyone, and happy Saturday. How's everyone doing out there this morning?
Happy
Great.
Saturday.
Happy
Morning.
Saturday.
All right. Well, we are past the midpoint of April, and in our preamble, we've already been chatting about different states that are represented in this community, Michigan and Florida in particular, talking about the rainbows that they're seeing this time of the year. So it's just, I mean, every season and every month is wonderful, but nothing like seeing that occurrence of rainbows, which is so common in the month of April, where you get that rain shower, April showers combined with some sunshine that breaks through and creates a beautiful rainbow. So it's an exciting time. We're excited to be here in our session of Voices of HealthPointe, which is where we gather at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for 1 hour live so that we can have that community engagement and conversation that we all enjoy. But these episodes do also get uploaded onto YouTube under Voices of HealthPointe. And so we typically have some docket items that we start off with. That's true to form this morning. I'm going to have a docket item that I'm titling Ozempic Personality, Part 3 of the Trilogy. That's based on a Washington Post article that came out this week. And then we have Laurel that is doing a docket item titled Revisiting Gratitude. And in the preamble, it already kind of sparked a lot of conversations, including about rainbows and stuff. So we're really looking forward to that. So a couple of docket items here, and then we'll just kind of break into our conversational mode that we all enjoy. And before we know it, the 1 hour is wrapped up. But let's go ahead and get going on our docket items. First, I want to comment that the content shared here is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health routine. Our discussions draw on wellness concepts similar to those found in the HealthPointe methodology, which we hold in high regard. The ideas presented are independently developed and do not represent or speak on behalf of the HealthPointe brand. Okay, and again, my docket item is titled Ozempic Personality, Part 3 of the Trilogy. A phrase has been circulating this week that is hard to ignore. Ozempic personality. Not a clinical term, not something found in a medical textbook, but something real people are saying out loud. This week, the Washington Post published an article describing individuals who, after starting GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, begin to feel different. Not depressed, not unwell, just flat. As one individual in the article described it, it's like you're trying to be excited about a moment, but can't fully connect to it. That sentence alone tells you something important. This is not about weight. This is about how you are experiencing life. If you've been part of our conversations in Voices of HealthPointe, this is not the first time a phrase like this has emerged. In fact, this is now the third, a trilogy. First, there was what many began to describe as Ozempic anxiety. The early excitement of weight loss, often dramatic and rapid, followed by a concerning realization. What happens if insurance no longer covers this? What happens if the cost becomes ongoing? What happens if nothing else in my life changed? For many, that realization introduced a kind of background tension and anxiety, a dependency question. Not just, is this working, but what happens if it stops? Then came Ozempic Face. It was Deb Llewellyn within our HealthPointe community who first brought our awareness to what many were seeing. A gaunt, sagging appearance, a hollowing of facial structure. Not in every case, but in enough cases to be noticeable. This is what rapid weight loss can do when the body is losing not just fat, but also structural support, collagen, and in many cases, lean muscle mass. Again, not a judgment, simply an observation. And now the third, Ozempic personality. Three phrases, three signals, all pointing toward the same underlying reality. We are no longer just looking at clinical trial data. We are observing real lived experiences. The Washington Post article points to something researchers are beginning to explore more closely. Dopamine. This is the brain's reward system. GLP-1 medications appear to quiet this system. That is part of why they are effective. Food noise decreases. Cravings for alcohol, nicotine, and other substances often decline as well. But the same mechanism raises a question. What happens if there is an experienced side effect of this? Because dopamine is not just about food. It's about motivation. It's about connection, enjoyment, that felt sense that something is worth doing. When that signal is dampened broadly, the result for some people is not just less desire for food, it is less desire, period. These medications are powerful because they change signals. They alter the volume of the internal drivers that shape behavior. And when you change those signals quickly, you can change behavior quickly. But behavior is only one layer. Underneath behavior is identity. It's routine. It's environment. It's community. If those layers do not change alongside the signal, a gap can form. And that gap is where many of these concerning experiences seem to live. This is also where perspective matters. Clinicians like Dr. Mark Hyman often remind us that there is virtually no pharmaceutical intervention without trade-offs. That is not a criticism. It is a principle. Every meaningful intervention in the body shifts pathways. And when pathways shift, other systems respond. This is not necessarily an either-or story. It's not a decision between a medication or a lifestyle program. It is a question of alignment. For some, a GLP-1 may create an initial shift. It may quiet the noise enough to create space. But what fills that space becomes everything. This is where a structured system like HealthPointe, guided by a coach, can become extremely meaningful. Building habits and structure that are specific, repeatable, and sustainable for life. Real food patterns that stabilize blood sugar and energy. Daily movement, most often in the form of consistent walking. Targeted supplementation to support micronutrient needs. And thinking, shaped daily through HealthPointe audios, coaching, and community. A coordinated system led by a coach and reinforced by a community of like-minded people moving in the same direction. Because at the center of all of this is not just weight loss. It is something more durable, an outcome that is supported, structured, and repeatable. Not just while a prescription is active, but for the rest of your life. So as this trilogy continues to unfold, Ozempic anxiety, Ozempic face, and now Ozempic personality, the question is not simply what these medications are doing. The question is, are you building a structure and aligning with a community that allows you to realize the healthy outcomes that you truly want? All right, guys, that is my docket item. I'll open it up for any comments that people might have. Again, not a new subject, hence the trilogy, but any thoughts or commentary on this? Maybe people have seen this article or heard of it. It came out this week.
Well, I'll jump in here. Oh, all right. Go ahead,
No,
Carol.
go ahead, Laurel. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say I know a few people that are taking Ozempic. I haven't talked with them a lot, but I do think initially they're not focused on all of that, what comes next. You know, they're just focused on weight loss. I mean, because Ozempic doesn't advertise it as get your whole life in balance. It talks about stopping eating. So it's funny because I think by the time they realize some of that, they're pretty far along the path and they realize there's more to it than just losing weight. But that, I don't know what that says. I just thought I'd add that as a comment.
That's a valid comment, Laurel. And I think in maybe a perfect world would be something where before someone is maybe allowed to go on something like this, if we want to use that type of term, it's something where they get some level of coaching or kind of like some sort of preamble to let them know what's perhaps downstream from this, the broader picture. I think that would be a great idea. And I think there's programs out there, they're just not mandated.
Do they do that with bariatric surgery? I don't know. It seems like they should, but did they ever? I don't know. I don't have any experience with that, so I don't know when people are going to bariatric surgery, it seems like they would be able to. Yeah, I'm going to get run over by a golf cart here. Okay.
I can
They,
tell you from a bariatric surgery of years ago, not my own, but I had a client that went on bariatric, and there was absolutely, at that point, there was absolutely no training whatsoever,
Jeez.
because when I went over there, all she served was goodies, and she had lost 100 pounds, but she was putting it back on because they never taught her about all the philosophies of full program of healthy living, like HealthPointe is. And one of the things, and I ask you guys to keep this in mind because I'm going to be calling on you for Monday night. So just keep it in mind. Tying in with that article, I think it's a great article, Eric. And Monday night, we're going to do another kind of an open panel type, or not panel, but an open sharing type situation. Everybody's cameras on, sound on, whatever. And the two questions that I'm going to ask is if people would volunteer a healthy habit that they came up with, a healthy habit stacking. We talk about habit stacking so much, and Ozempic doesn't do that, or GLPs don't do that. They don't teach you how to create those healthy habits. Like Laurel says, all they teach you is not to eat or to eat less and lose weight. All of you have different habits that you formed, habit stacking, where you want to do this and you want to do that. So now you put it together. So that would be one of the things. And then another one would be either or both, would be a particular product that you added into your program somewhere along the way of your healthy journey, whether it's HealthPointe or just a healthy journey, that really helped you physiologically. And I've got a particular one that Dr. Vicki Nelson suggested to me not too long ago to increase, and it made all the difference in the world. So I think that folks are going to these are just suggestions that people are going to say, this worked for me. I don't know if it'll work for you, but if you have this situation, you might want to try this. No claims, but just personal experiences. So those two things, I really, really want to get your input on. So for those of you that are on this call today, you're my warriors, my Monday night warriors. If you don't volunteer and put your hand up or throw me a text, I'm going to be calling on you. So get your brains in order and your ideas. Okay, back to you, Eric. Thanks for that article. It's great.
Sure. Okay. Sounds great. Sounds like an exciting Monday evening. Those panels are always so fun. So looking forward to that. Great.
It would seem like that what we have here with HealthPointe, if somebody was, and I think we've probably discussed this before, but if someone was considering GLP-1s, and that's what they want to do, to suggest that, well, we have a program that helps you get your mind straight about what you're really about ready to do, and it will help you along the way. And because, if you listen to all those audios, or even a few of them prior to starting, if the medical community is not going to give people going on GLP-1s any mental support, I guess, for lack of a better word, we certainly have that. Or in some vein, even if it's not our whole program, we could offer up some things to listen to. Anyway, it just seems like that's the most important part of our program in a lot of ways anyway.
It's so true. That thinking part, right? The one of the four essentials, the four essentials being supplementing, movement, snacking, and thinking. That thinking part alone, Laurel, like you say, if somebody is choosing or considering a GLP-1, or maybe already on a GLP-1, what a wonderful thing to come alongside them, to have that audio, that vast library of daily messages and other audios to help with their thinking and education, for sure.
Hey, Laurel.
Yes.
Just because sometimes these audios go to people who have never heard this before, a lot of times people will think that the only way to lose weight fast is through this process. but can you just share your experience with simply this HealthPointe program? Because I think you, among others, many others, but I know you personally, your experience has been so impressive to me, how much weight you've lost and, you know, all of your numbers and all that kind of stuff through doing the HealthPointe alone without the additional help of other things. So can you share that?
Well, yeah, I guess that's funny because you say it was impressive. And I'm glad to hear you say that because you know who it's not really impressive to me is me, so that's why the community is important because you're just doing what you're doing and you don't think about it until you kind of look back. And so, again, that's the whole gratitude part. But yeah, so I've lost over 70 pounds. And right now my body's in an adjustment period. It's getting used to that. And, and so it's just interesting. I'm learning a lot. And that's where you know, I had more energy, although that didn't happen initially for me. For a lot of people, it does. But boy, somewhere along the third month or third cycle, I just had all kinds of energy. And which surprised me because I was always kind of like, oh, I need a nap about 3 o'clock or something. So anyway, yeah, I've lost the weight. I've lost about, I don't know, I don't even look at that lately. 40 plus inches, I think, overall. Um, and I always laugh. My Apple Watch tells me, because I was not a walker and I resisted this program for a long time because I'm not going to walk 10,000 steps. And the past week, I did like 12,000, 16,000, 13,000 for a series of days. So that changes. So anyway, it certainly is without medication. In fact, I'm off. The only medication I was on was blood pressure prior to this. And that was just a real mild one. So I got off of that. And I'm really, in fact, since I've been here in Florida, which is interesting, I haven't even needed any asthma inhaler, which was the only one I had left. So anyway, it's been successful. It's been good for my brain. As the one guy said in one of our walk and talks, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So it definitely has a trickle effect into all other parts of your life. So, which I'm sure Ozempic doesn't. I mean, they don't market it that way. So anyway, I don't know if that's what you were looking for, but that's kind of a little synopsis.
That's, I'm sure, Pam, what you were looking for. And thanks for that question, Pam, because I think it's important. It's great. I valued hearing that again and some of the other nuances as you unpack it a little bit more, Laurel, about what your journey has been. I think so often in the Voices of HealthPointe, we launch right into our docket items and our segments, and it's maybe lost on particularly new listeners, either that are here live or listening to this is like, okay, but what are the results? I had a presentation just yesterday, as a matter of fact, and I just was clueless, oblivious. I didn't mess up, but I went through everything, and then somebody kind of raised their hands and they just say, well, curious, does it work? Like, what are some examples of, does it, what are some outcomes? And I was like, oh, yeah. Well, let me cite this person, and they lost this pound, came off BP meds, and blah, blah, blah. And this person, da, da, da. Like, you dummy, you're going through all this, whatever, lots of other stuff that had its own value, but I forgot kind of the most important thing was, does it work? So thank you, Pam, for asking Laurel to share with us what her results have been. I'm sure we could go around the horn and fill the whole hour with nothing but results, and we kind of have that thanks to Carol on the Monday night on the kind of the NSV panel, the non-scale victory panel, which is just, along with the weight. The weight part is, goes without saying in that. And now we're kind of going on to these other things like Laurel, you mentioned no asthma inhaler. That's a big one. Then BP meds, that's another, wow, that's huge to be off of that. So thank you, Pam, for that question. Thanks, Laurel, for unpacking that more and reminding us all how important it is to revisit once in a while. For anybody that's just wondering, we're not just theorizing here, we get real results. Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you, Eric, for bringing that audio up also, because that non-scale victory audio is, we've been, sending out texts to people, listen to this audio, give us some feedback. And the other day I was talking to my chiropractor and I was going to send her the audio. And then before I was going to send her the health point explanation audio, which we've been doing. And then I thought, you know what, before I go into the health point explanation, I'm going to go into some of these stories. And I pulled that non-scale victory recording that we did, about a month ago. And I listened to it and I thought, this is such a great tool, even more than how does it work. It is why it works and how does it work for the person, and the stories that you all told. My only regret was Laurel did not share that she lost the 70 pounds, but all of the ideas that people shared of what it made a difference to them was so valuable. And I thought, man, I think I'm going to start leading with that, because people want to know those real life stories before they know, this isn't just another diet. So thanks for bringing that up, Eric.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
one thing that I've noticed too is those audios and other people's experience are the out of town expert with a briefcase, because oftentimes the people that they still see you, especially if you haven't lost a ton of weight. I mean, I think 22 pounds is pretty exciting, and I know what it does for me, but it's not necessarily that example like, wow, 70 pounds, holy cow, this does really work, and so having somebody else's experience, sharing other people's testimony, that's the out of town expert, because it's like you're not trying to convince them. So it's just somebody else. See, it does work.
Hmm. Yeah, that's great. Bringing out that principle that many of us are familiar with, Pam. But thanks for highlighting that principle of out of town expert with the briefcase. Or sometimes you hear a prophet is without honor in his own land, right? Where it's like, okay, yeah, I expect you to tell me that this works or whatever. Blah blah blah. Okay, that's kind of expected. But then you get the panel. And that's the other thing too, is that what a great idea, Carol, to do that as a panel. I mean, the solo stories are phenomenal. We get those particularly on the Thursday mornings, and they are amazing because they allow somebody to kind of go deep on their questions, and just you have that continuity of hearing somebody's individual story and the nuances of that, and it's valuable and interesting and stuff. But when you have a panel,
Yeah.
it's just that chorus of voices that everybody can relate to one or more of the people on the panel. And that's what's important, particularly for somebody considering the program, is like, okay, I couldn't relate to that first person. But wow, that person that talked about this, they kind of like look like me, act like me, seem to have the same things. I can relate to them or something. They see something in a panel. That's what's so wonderful about it. So what a great idea, Carol, to do that. And also to be having another one coming up on Monday night.
Yeah,
So,
and you know what, guys, this is not a time to be humble. This is, I think, remember Natalie a few, oh, I think it was at the conference. She said, go out and tell everybody about HealthPointe. Tell them about what you did. Don't be humble, guys. You all have great ideas, and I hate to have to assign people. I love when people will say, I will share an idea. And don't think that, oh, my idea, blah, blah, blah. Your idea could change somebody's life. So please, 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 the more the merrier. We want this to be, I mean, we only got 30 minutes, but we want it to be a free for all of great ideas. If there's a product in there that helped you, great. But I love the habit stacking ideas, or any ideas in HealthPointe that you do differently now that has really helped you along your health journey. So please help us. Help me Monday night.
for sure. Yeah. It's not the time to be timid, whether it's on the panel for a Monday night or just, this afternoon when you bump into somebody in public, you know, and just, doesn't mean you fire hose them, But in fact, just the opposite, as we also learned, no better teacher on that than Hank. We really covered a lot of that last week on Hank's skill sets on asking questions and so forth and how to go about that. But certainly, it's amazing what can happen in 5 minutes of conversation with somebody. If you truly are interested in having a conversation with them and, you're not in your own head and on your own agenda, but, what you're saying is not overstated, Carol. You can change somebody's life just with that thin thread of a 5 minute connection. You never know where that can lead for them. And for those that they know, that butterfly effect that comes from the amazing, speaking of audios, the amazing audio by Ray Keller on the butterfly effect, where, or the ripple in the pond effect or whatever. But yeah, not the time to be in your own world and overly timid and not wanting to step out of your comfort zone and have a conversation. Look, we're all busy. We all want to just get going and do, be on our agenda. But I think, if somebody comes into our radar range, that 3 foot rule or what have you, I think it's important. And I'm saying this to myself. I'm not saying this to anybody else as much as I'm saying it to myself, to stop. And as Hank says, wherever you are, be there, be present and be focused on them. Ask, listen, and it's fun too,
Little side note, orange dot 39, day 34, the butterfly effect. I'm not going to let you guys down.
Excellent. Thank you. Orange dot queen, Kathy. That's the butterfly effect. Give the numbers again, Kathy.
Orange dot 39, day 34.
Okay. For those that are wondering on that, that is in our HealthPointe app, which hopefully everybody on this Voices of HealthPointe has access to. But if not, check with your coach on that. It's an amazing app, and it's full of a deep library of daily messages, all of which have an orange dot number next to it. And so we just affectionately call it orange dot whatever number. And Kathy is so great at queuing up what actual number that is so that the rest of us can look for it later.
That's another great idea, Eric. Sorry to cut you in, cut into you. That's another great idea for Monday night is how do you put your audio listening in? Because people say, oh, I got to listen to the audios, but I don't know when. I don't have time to listen to them. Clever ways that you listen to audios. That's another tip that you can give us on Monday night. Sorry, Eric.
No, it's great. Actually, it makes me think of what my tip could be. I mean, I feel like 1,000 tips that I could probably share. I need to pare it down to one or two or whatever, but I definitely have an audio tip on that. So,
Well, in case you get, keep the other 999 handy in case we run short of people.
right. All right. Sounds great. Sounds great.
Hey, Eric, this is Jim Wellmus.
Hey,
And
Jim.
one of the things that I've kind of felt with HealthPointe is you actually, and we don't talk about it, but when you get blood work done, you have basically a marker to where to start from. And I've been tracking obviously blood work for many years for things, but recently I had new blood work done, and the numbers are falling into place so well that you actually we kind of forget that that's the healthy side of life. We do HealthPointe, we get healthy, but the markers of blood work actually tell you, yeah, it's working. And I recently had some really good blood work. My physicians were pretty happy with the way things are going. And so I think one of the things we need to, when we're talking to people is that not to mention, hey, you'll lose weight, but you will actually become healthier. and healthier in a way. You talk about non-scalable wins because you can't see that until you get the blood work done. But when you get the blood work and things, you look at trends, because at least the MyChart program will actually show your blood work and it'll show trends. Are you going up or down? Which I've been doing or tracking this now for over or just about 10 years from where we started. And the trends are moving in the right direction to becoming healthier, losing the weight, doing things like that. So I think that's one of the things too, that if people go to your physician, you get your blood work, I think you'll see results there, and it should make you feel, at least it makes me feel really like, okay, I'm doing the right things. And in line of Carol, I did add a few different supplements to, I think, boost that movement, other than just the double X and that. Because one of the things they watch is the liver for me, and that's one of the things because of the medications. But yeah, the blood work is, I think, a good indicator marker of, am I, I'm doing health pointed, but am I getting healthier? And I think that's a positive.
Oh man, that's great, great point. Kind of that clinical layer that backs up. And just to kind of draw on the earlier docket item and a compare and contrast, could you imagine, I'm not saying this is always the case, but could you imagine if because you lost weight, and again, I'm emphasizing weight, not fat, if you lost weight through a pharmaceutical and you go in and your blood markers are not improving like you're saying, Jim, if your trend is not as optimal like you're experiencing, Jim, that wouldn't that be unfortunate if now we know on one of the markers, it's not a blood marker, but we know on a skeletal muscle mass that many on a GLP-1 do trend negatively on that. They lose muscle mass. But Jim, I was curious to the degree that you're comfortable sharing. You mentioned about some other supplements that you use. Do you care to share what some of those are in case there's, again, it might be more specific to your specific track and health journey that you're on, but still, sharing it if you're comfortable with that.
Yeah. Actually, many years ago, we had our, and Carol and them may know, we had a couple in a group, Harold and Linda Cook. And Linda had some health issues and she added liver support, and it helped her immensely in things. She always talked about it. So, being that we were looking at one of the markers being liver, I thought, well, I'm going to add it because that's one of the things that I could add. So liver support is one of the things, and garlic. Those are the two that I've kind of added because the garlic, the blood pressure help. Well, garlic helps with blood pressure. The liver support has, I think, works with helping the liver to at least. Yeah, I mean, it by doing the liver support, I can't say this is the exact cause, but one of the markers watching is actually moved down an entire point. Uh,
Wow. These are
versus,
like on like liver enzymes or something like that
yeah,
on your.
yeah, they're well, one of the ones we watch is it's on the blood work. I think it's called BUM.
Mm-hmm.
Is the marker, and
Yep.
that I was told 10 years ago that that marker is basically, part of it is because of the medications I'm on, that it's because your liver filters and cleans everything, kidneys. So recently, like a few weeks before I went to get the blood work, I thought, well, I'm going to just do the liver support. I added garlic to the regimen, along with all the other things, of course, magnesium and things. But it's, I feel like that has helped bring that down. I do the GI, um, all the digestive supplements that we have, the fiber, the balanced, but I didn't see it moving. And then recently I thought, well, Linda always talked about liver support. I'm going to add it. And so I started adding it. And so I'm starting to see that because that's something that I really watch for the health purpose, but that's what I've added. Those are
Mm.
the two supplements that I've added to the regimen.
Uh, that's great. And I see a couple of hands raised here. I'm going to get over to them in just a quick second. But before I wrap up with you, Jim, in the spirit of Pam's question, we'll say your blood work, great non-scale victories, but what is your scale victory again? For those that aren't familiar with your story, you've lost a total of how much in terms of weight?
Since overall, it's been about 80 pounds. So I was
Nice.
two initially,
Nice.
I was two like 80, and then I was on HealthPointe, got it down to 250, and then from there. So currently I'm 187.
Wow. Fantastic. That's so great, Jim. Thanks for that. I mean, that those clinical blood work numbers, it's not an either or thing. You're 80 pounds ish down and also improving trends on blood work. That's awesome. Thank you, Jim. Jerry and or Sharon, I see a hand raised there, and please.
Yeah, yes, thank you, Eric. I just want to thank Jim. I mean, if if I heard one thing, only one thing from this entire episode, for somebody to say, I've been tracking my blood work for 10 years and I am healthier now than 10 years ago, good gravy. I mean, that is like, wow, how many people in the world can say that? And I'm just saying that is so very impressive to encourage people to really step in with Neutralite and take care of the things that they might can take care of. Medications, as you mentioned recently about your father, sometimes we need the fire hose.
Mhm.
but but once the fire hose has done what it's supposed to do for us to get back on track and try to come up, with something just that says every year I want my blood work to be better. That's just so amazing. And so I just appreciate Jim sharing that so much.
Uh, such a great comment there, Sharon. Same thing. I mean, and even at just tracking it for 10 years, full stop on that. Who tracks something on their blood work for 10 years? But then, like you said, Sharon, for someone to not only be tracking it, but to be getting healthier as they age. A birthday is just another loop of the year chronologically, but biologically, as Jim is aging one year after another, chronologically, biologically, his numbers are getting better and better and better. That's such a great thing to, reiterate and kind of double click on, Sharon. And thanks for that. And bringing alongside those Neutralite products that can be helping with that. Certainly, Jim, in your case, with things like the liver support and a lot of you mentioned about the overall gut health and so forth. And the bun is particularly tied to kidney function as well. A lot of times when you see a bun number, it's tied to that. And those kidneys have what's called an epithelial layer. I mean, these are filtering mechanisms. Our kidneys and our liver are, broadly, we think of them as filtering, and having that healthy epithelial layer inside the structure of kidney, just like an epithelial layer in the structure of our intestines, so that we don't have what's called leaky gut, where that epithelial layer allows contents in your intestine to kind of migrate through the walls of your intestine into your bloodstream, which sets up a chronic inflammatory situation. So good habits, great products. I mean, it's just a whole package. Thanks again, Sharon. We've got David Munoz. Good morning, David.
Yeah, good
I
morning.
like your, I like seeing you live, but I got to tell you, I like the new avatar picture there with you and Kathy, and you're looking all svelte there with you guys. This was, I associate it with when you guys were doing your dancing after
Yeah,
your surgery and stuff like that. So great avatar picture there. Awesome. That's amazing picture. But anyhow,
well,
David
thank you. Yeah, I owe
Munoz.
it all to her. So, and I was going to reiterate with Jim. I mean, Jim and I sound a lot alike, and the story sound a lot alike because when I asked my wife to get me healthy for that surgery, it was because the doctors told me with the blood work and everything that they did, and with all my issues that I had, and I had a time to recovery, that that if I could get healthy again, it would make a world of difference. So, they said you got to lose the fat. They didn't want me losing the muscle. They actually told me that too. And then I, lost the weight. And Jim and I actually weighed the same, by the way, Jim. So I don't know. Are we cloning each other with all this stuff here? I don't know. But I tell you what, it's pretty great when I go in to, get consultation for my surgery, and they said, oh, well, your blood works, everything's coming back great, everything's normal, you look healthy, so why don't we move up your surgery? So my wife did it, and so blood work, I was tracking that for, during that period, not for 10 years. So kudos to you, Jim, because you outdid me for sure on that. But for me, blood work was everything because I told my wife I didn't tell her I wanted to lose weight. I told her I wanted to get healthy because everything was out of whack. So this works, guys. This really works.
Yes. Thanks, David. And for those that aren't familiar with David's full story, again, thank you, Carol, because that full story is on one of the Monday evening recordings where we got to hear from David and Kathy about an incredible, journey. I mean, there's lots of different reasons people want to get healthy, lose weight, and so forth. And boy, it was a very real thing. I mean, this was like no joke. You were going in for major surgery and getting in the healthiest state that you could. Just really had a positive impact with moving up your surgery, moving you out of a high risk setting, and your doctor being able to put you into a kind of an accelerated timeline and a lower, a surgical scenario where you're not as high risk. Just for those that aren't familiar with David's full story, definitely check with your coach and get that full audio. It's amazing to listen to. And let's see here. Jim, do you have your hand up? Or you do have your hand up. I'm not sure if that's intentional or not, but Jim?
Yeah, actually, the one thing I thought about here is roughly a year ago, well, it was a little under a year ago, my my endocrinologist wanted to put me on Ozempic. I refused. I said, no, we can do this without it. And so that was one of the determinations too, to do it the way I wanted to do it, not the way we can give you some that drug and we can get everything in order. And I'm like, no, we're not doing that. And that was my response to him.
Worked out well for you. That's for sure. Absolutely. All right. Well, Laurel, would love to hear from you on revisiting gratitude if you're willing and able
Here,
to.
I'm trying to find a place I'm out in the middle of what I call the Gator Boardwalk, but I'm trying to find a place where I can put I've just read this morning, so I didn't prepare anything, but I just printed out a couple pages and highlighted a couple things because we had talked about gratitude, and I thought, well, this would be good. Because it's always good to be grateful, and we're usually, as Nancy Dornan says, be grateful. We're never grateful enough. So in this little chapter of the book, which this book was a gift from my coach, Carol, so I have to give credit where credit is due. And it talks about how do we move from irritation to serenity. I went, okay, well, the irritation, that's I know that pretty well. Serenity, I'm not as good at, and I have to work at it. It says, how do we find grateful contentment for what we have, even when we're surrounded by others who have more or who have something that we want? And you can apply this however. I don't know who needs to hear it. I guess in this somewhere there's something for everybody. But so she put down 3 steps, which you can elaborate, how it applies to you. But the first one she talked about was remember how you got what you have. Okay, when you're feeling irritable or whatever, you're not grateful enough, just try to remember how you got what you have. And in her case, she was jealous that somebody had a new set of cookware, and she said, "Oh my gosh!" When she thought about it, she got the cookware from when they first got married, and how wonderful her in-laws were, and also she connected that with something that happened that made her realize how lucky she really was. Let's see. Then number 2. Once you remember how you got what you have, 2 is remember what you want the most, because it's pretty easy to get sidetracked by, oh, look at that, or I wish that, or I wish I'd lost more weight, or I wish I'd taken that trip, or all the different things you can wish. There's a lot more things we don't have than things we do have, if you look at it that way. So remember what you want the most, and knowing what's important to you. You don't have to spend a lot of time on, being irritable about things you don't have that really, in the scheme of things, you really don't care. It's just for the moment, it seemed like a good idea. Or if you work at it, it'll come. And then number 3 is remember the benefits of what you have. And she said, with no restraints, look at the benefits you have. Looking at benefits, she said, flipped my momentary greed back to gratitude. We are challenged to claim a mindset of consistent contentment. I thought that was good, a mindset of consistent contentment. And, Bob Andrews used to talk about an attitude independent of circumstances. So I think that's kind of along the same line. Accepting that everything is a gift brings us the level of satisfaction that we need. Then she talked a little bit about jealousy, and jealousy was the word she was talking about, but there's a lot of other emotions in there that you could replace jealousy with. But jealousy is a red flag of our need for gratitude adjustment. And gratitude is an antidote for keeping jealousy at bay. Jealousy and contentment creep in at unsuspecting moments when we're weak, tired, and unsatisfied with other parts of our life. We can blur our jealous thoughts into the background by focusing on what we do have and why we have it. Recounting the qualities and benefits of what we already have gives us the confidence we need to tell temptation, what I have is enough. It's just right. So then she gave a little thing, a gratitude prompt, which is always something you can do today. And she said, what areas of life tempt you to be discontented? If possessions or others highlight your lack, write down what you already have and how it was provided to you. And above all things, be thankful for these good gifts. So there you go. That's Gratitude Revisited.
Wow. It's funny, Laurel, and I don't know if I speak for everyone else when you kind of tee these up. It's you often are like, oh, well, I just got this little thing that I just thought I would just kind of like maybe drop in here, just this little thing. And then it's like, so we're like anticipating this little thing. And then it's like, Shazam! This thing just blows us over. At least that's how I feel. I'm scribbling down notes and those 3 things. I've got to know now. I think also maybe a lot of people are curious. I was going to ask, what the heck is this book? It almost sounds like a Mel Robbins tone. Is it a Mel Robbins book? Or?
No, it's let's see, it's called Gratitude, and I think it's the publisher is the Daily Bread. So I can't remember the author's name, but I can Carol probably knows, but I can take a screenshot of it and put it wherever. I'll send it to Carol. She can decide where everybody is. I don't know. Are we on WhatsApp? Are we on whatever?
Well, Daily Bread is a little daily inspirational. If you don't have a lot of time to spend in meditation or in prayer, that's a little 1-pager little pamphlet. And what I think once a month, they have a book that they, if you donate to them, they'll send you a book. And that happened to be one of the books. And it was so funny because Laurel, I don't know if you even read the beginning of it, but this woman, if I'm understanding correctly, was almost totally blind for
Right,
a
yeah.
big chunk of her life. So to write a book like that, when you have missed most of your life seeing, like we all see and expect to see, is pretty amazing.
She does talk a lot about how, all the things that she experiences because she doesn't have sight. And it's not that you have better senses when you're blind. You just use them more. And it's reaffirming too, because she does talk about some of the things that she was talking about were exactly the things we talked about with awe and stuff, and how hearing the smell of coffee. She says, be grateful for the things you get up to in the morning. Just if you close your eyes and figure out what is it that I've got? I got slippers that I really like, are comfortable. I mean, she came up with all kinds of things. So yeah, it's very good, but I'm about halfway through it.
Wow. That's so great. Can't wait for part 3 in your trilogy, Laurel. If part 2 was, part 1 on the awe effect, the AWE effect, has been reverberating, certainly throughout this community, over and over. People reference that, and like I said, even in our preamble, we're talking about the rainbows, and we're just more aware. I mean, that's one of the things. We're almost kind of like building this gratitude muscle. It's not something that you just kind of learn it and then boom, you're transformed. It's probably for most of us more like a muscle that you have to exercise and do some repetition, and you're helping us do that, and then bringing about your part 2. And yes, I'm putting you on the hook for a trilogy here for part 3, but your part 2 of gratitude revisited, and that booklet, thanks for that. I call it The Daily Bread. It sounds wonderful. It sounds very, very readable, very bite-sized
It's
pieces.
perfect because each chapter is about, and I don't even know if they're 3 pages, but she goes through everything: birds, scenery. She's thankful for pots and pans. I mean, there's this, I'm going, okay, what's my problem? I think that gratitude is something that we all do well, and to remind each other of, simply because it's such an easy thing to get lost in the shuffle of time and busyness and all that stuff. And even if you just take a moment, like she says, those gratitude pauses, every time you walk through a doorway. I still do that from that one article. When I walk through a doorway, I go, oh, what am I thankful for? It never hurts to be reminded. So, and I'm me more than most, because I can go south pretty quick if I let it.
Mm-hmm. A lot of us can, I think. I think a lot of us that's kind of our default. So,
all right, I'll work on part 3.
All right.
So I know
David
we're coming
Dessau.
towards the end, so just a couple shout outs. And so one is one of the things that Hank often talks about is sell the sizzle. And so we're kind of talking about that. So one of the things I often try to talk about is the goal is optimal health and then maintaining it for the rest of your life. I wanted to thank Jim. I love his comment where he said, this could boost your results. As coaches, we get people on the primary program and then they hit a plateau or they want to go faster or whatever it is, to be able to say, you know what, this could boost your results if you started taking muscle multiplier, or this could boost your results if you took the Moral Blood Orange or different supplements. So I love that little phrase that Jim gave us of boost. In your talk, I think of things that Huberman, is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah, Huberman. Yeah.
Okay, well, him and then many other videos out there on how to increase your dopamine. So to be aware that that these drugs, one of the side effects is decreasing your dopamine, is really going against the grain. So I really appreciated having that's another tool in my toolbox. So I appreciate that. And Laurel, gratitude. I always share with people gratitude is the number one, I believe, vibrational state. And if you can stay in a state of gratitude, you stack the odds of good things coming your way. That's it.
That's it. That's a lot, David. Thank you. Thank you for that. And, what an example of gratitude. I mean, not just this time, but so often, don't we all enjoy hearing David going through, the things that he's grateful for, and often so others focus. That's an amazing trait that you have developed, David, on being others focused and really learning so much from others, Hank and Laurel and Carol and so forth. So thank you for that. Well, we are wrapping up our program here. I know we've already noted, kind of any upcoming announcements. Carol, you've already noted about Monday evening. That's at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for 30 minutes for those that are plugging into that, and for those that can contribute on the panel before Carol calls you out and calls on you. Be sure to reach out to Carol on that. Do we have any other announcements or anything coming up? We've got our Sedona, our conference, at the end of next month. Super excited about that.
I do have something. Oh, go ahead, Sharon.
Oh, okay.
Great minds think alike. Go ahead.
Thank you, Carol. Okay. Yes, I'd just like to invite everybody tomorrow night. We're having a webinar, and just as we can bless people's lives with HealthPointe and it changes everything, we can also bless people's life with this business, with the Amway business and the Network 21 opportunity. And so tomorrow night at 9 o'clock Eastern time, so it would be 8 o'clock Central, we're going to do some real basic things. And we are also going to feature Hank and Carol, because when Hank and Carol gave the things a week ago Saturday, so many people don't hear that because they're not actively involved in HealthPointe. And so I just the community and the here's how we live our life. So anyway, I just wanted to say tomorrow night Carol has that link, and we're just so excited about them joining us for that. So be sure that you tune in for that also.
All right. Thank you so much, Sharon and Jerry. That's 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Central, and fantastic. Doesn't get any better than having both Hank and Carol on there. Okay, thank you again. Any other thoughts, parting thoughts, announcements? I think we're good. And once again, everyone, so fun. Let's go look for some rainbows here in mid-April. We're going to get some more showers. We'll get some more sunshine. We'll get some more rainbows, just like we were talking about at the beginning of the program. It's been such a great episode. Always is, never fails. The tapestry of voices all around the HealthPointe topic. It just never fails to deliver. So thank you, everyone. And we'll plan on seeing everyone next week. Same time, same place. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Have a great week.
Great week.